Some states are walking economic tightropes, and a few are about to lose their balance. Stick around, one of these states might collapse faster than you think. Starting at spot number 10, Kentucky looks like a peaceful place, but its economy is stretched thin. Kentucky may look affordable on the surface, but beneath those scenic hills, the dollar is stretched thinner than a banjo string. The state's rainy day fund in 2025, just 7.6% of annual spending, barely enough to cover a thunderstorm, let alone an economic hurricane. Experts say you need at least 15% to weather the worst, and Kentucky's far off that mark. Unemployment is rolling uphill, 5.6% compared to a national average of 4.1%. If the big economic wave hits, all it takes is a dip in tax revenue to slice through education and healthcare like a hot knife through Derby pie. Nearly 18% of Kentuckians, almost 1 out of 5, are living below the poverty line, well above the national average. And with home prices starting to slip in key cities, thousands could end up underwater. GDP is shrinking, down 0.7% in the first quarter, and coal tax revenues dropped by a staggering 22%. The engines that used to drive Kentucky's economy are sputtering, so next time you hear "y'all come back now," maybe keep your wallet zipped tight. Moving northeast, the smallest state packs a big punch in recession risks. At number 9, Rhode Island may be small, but its economic risks are anything but. In 2025, being the smallest state is no protection when the fiscal storm rolls in. With just over 1 million people, tax revenues are narrow, and industry diversity is pretty much hope we get lucky. The rainy day fund covers only 6.9% of annual expenses, way below the median, and unemployment is up to 5.4%. Compared to just 3.6% a year earlier. Healthcare and tourism, their backbone industries, are losing jobs and traction. Median house prices sit at $446,000, while the average household brings home $74,489. That gap is bigger than a Newport mansion's mortgage, and average debt hovers at $41,700 per person. If you thought you could escape financial peril by moving to Rhode Island, best bring swim fins, because rising delinquencies and weak pension funding mean this state could sink fast.
Moving to number 8, Idaho's rapid growth now feels more like a dangerous balancing act. Idaho's been booming, but now the boom feels more like the countdown before a rocket crash. Population has jumped 18% since 2015, but infrastructure and job markets are struggling to keep up. The median home price in Boise reached $483,000 last year, nearly double their prices 6 years ago. Housing markets seemed hot until the inventory ballooned by 28% year over year, and now many homeowners can't sell without taking a big loss. Unemployment is still manageable at 3.9%, but cracks are forming across the tech, agri, and real estate sectors, the very trio Idaho depends on. Meanwhile, the state's rainy day fund covers only 6.1% of annual spending. With every fourth house spending over 30% of income to keep a roof overhead, Idaho residents are sensitive to even a small gust of economic wind. Household debt, $37,200 on average. When growth outpaces stability, just ask any physicist, eventually the system shakes itself apart. Heading south, we have number 7, Arizona. The desert sun isn't warming its economy as much as it's melting stability. Sunshine and sprawling cities are what Arizona's known for, but dig under the sand and you'll find deep fissures. With a population of 7.4 million, rapid expansion drove housing prices up. Median price statewide stands at $424,000, but in spots like Scottsdale and Phoenix, it's above $550,000. The rain doesn't come often, and neither do emergency funds. Only 5.8% of the budget sits ready for a crisis, well below the safety line. Unemployment is 5.8% and rising quickly, with Phoenix shedding over 19,000 jobs in 5 months. 31% of households are officially housing burdened, draining more than a third of their pay just for somewhere to lie down at night. Arizona's GDP shrank 0.9% last quarter, and average household debt is $43,500. When the mirage disappears, what's left isn't just cactus, it's the red warning light on every bank and every kitchen table. From the desert to the lights of Vegas, Nevada's gambling economy is losing chips fast, coming in at number 6. A state built on gaming, hospitality, and hoping people keep spending. But in 2025, the house edge is gone. Tourism revenues in Las Vegas dropped by 13%. Hotel bookings and conventions are drying up, and real estate investors are running faster than a blackjack dealer with a hot shoe. Median home prices statewide are $438,000, but Vegas valuations fell nearly 9% from last year. Nearly 19% of homeowners in Vegas owe more than their house is worth, a scenario riskier than betting all your chips on zero. The rainy day fund? Only 5.1%. Unemployment is ticking up, now at 6.3%, with 22,000 jobs lost in one city alone. Household debt averages $45,200, and delinquency rates, especially for auto and credit cards, rose 2.3% in 6 months. Nevada over-relied on a single revenue stream, and in 2025, the odds are finally turning. Moving east to the industrial heartland, at number 5, Indiana's industrial base is starting to crack. Indiana's shadow may loom large in America's heartland, but the foundation underneath is crumbling. The state, home to 6.85 million, depends heavily on manufacturing, especially autos and steel. Demand for both has tailed off. GDP shrank 1.1% last quarter, and more than 42,000 jobs vanished statewide in 6 months. Unemployment rates just hit 5.9%, and workforce participation is at its lowest point in a decade, 60.8%. Median home prices, $246,000, look reasonable, but incomes are barely enough. Median household at $63,000. Add $41,000 in average household debt and a rainy day fund covering just 6.4% of expenses, and Indiana is standing on fiscal quicksand. The state is 45th for public health spending and lags far behind in unemployment benefits. As manufacturing cools and housing vacancies rise, the dominoes are lining up for a painful chain reaction if recession deepens. On the Atlantic coast, number 4 is South Carolina, where growth is strained and risks are rising. With 5.4 million residents, South Carolina may look vibrant, but beneath the surface are overstretched infrastructure and skyrocketing housing costs. Median home prices shot up to $388,000, a 52% leap since 2019, but incomes have lagged, trapped at $63,000. Nearly a third of homeowners and more than 40% of renters spend over 30% on housing. Tourism and real estate fueled recent GDP gains, but both have stalled. Q1 growth was barely 0.2%, and revenue shrank in Charleston and Myrtle Beach by 11%. Construction starts dropped 18%, signaling developers are pulling back. Rainy day funds cover 6% of expenses, far below the average, and unemployment reached 5.7%, with 38,000 jobs lost in 4 months. The state ranks in the bottom 5 for education and healthcare funding. Household debt sits at $43,800. If a real recession lands, the unraveling will be swift, especially for households who thought moving here would be the safe choice.
Further south, Mississippi's economic warning signs have been flashing for a while. Mississippi comes in at number 3, with some of the nation's toughest economic challenges. The state holds America's highest poverty rate at 19.9%, with almost 1 in 5 residents struggling even in so-called good times. The rainy day fund is only 5.2% of annual spending, leaving little cushion for emergencies. GDP dropped by 1.2% last quarter, and mass layoffs struck agriculture, manufacturing, and healthcare sectors. Unemployment is 6.1%, and rural hospitals are closing at alarming rates. Education and health funding rank dead last nationwide.
Median incomes are just $51,500, and even with low home prices around $184,000, rising costs for energy and insurance leave home ownership precarious. More than a third of Mississippi residents are cost-burdened, and average debt is $38,200. Infrastructure, the bridges, water systems, roads, is failing piece by piece. The next shakeup won't just hurt, it could send the state into a full-blown economic spiral. At number 2, Colorado's impressive growth conceals deep economic strain. Once the darling of American growth, Colorado is now careening toward a crisis. Nearly 6 million residents face surging home prices, $631,000 in Denver and $570,000 statewide, and high household debt, $48,900 on average. The rainy day fund covers just 5.9% of annual expenses, a risky number in these conditions. Even strong economic diversity can't offset a market skewed towards vulnerable real estate. Widespread layoffs in tech, construction, and tourism, plus a rising unemployment rate at 5.4%, spell trouble. GDP contracted by 0.6% last quarter, and energy plus recreation are susceptible if the downturn accelerates. Millennials who moved for open space and job prospects face sticker shock. And in cities like Boulder, homelessness has risen 21% in just 1 year. Education and public services are lagging, and with inequality ballooning, Colorado is headed for a harsh reckoning. The crash, if it comes, won't stop at the Rockies. And finally, at number 1, Louisiana tops the list as most at risk. If you're placing bets, Louisiana is the frontrunner for economic collapse in 2025. It's a perfect storm: extreme poverty, 23% of residents, crumbling infrastructure, and almost no fiscal buffer. Rainy day fund at just 4.3%, lowest in the nation. GDP shrank by 1.4%, and unemployment soared to 6.6%, with over 54,000 jobs lost in less than a year. Major industries, oil, gas, tourism, shipping, are all bleeding. New Orleans lost 15% of its hospitality workforce, and construction projects in Baton Rouge are stalling out. Median incomes hover at $54,000, median home prices at $225,000, but rural parishes face income levels below $40,000, and basic infrastructure barely functions. 40% of renters are cost-burdened, and average debt is $42,000. Skyrocketing flood insurance and utility costs eat away at whatever remains. Louisiana stands almost last for healthcare and education funding. If a deep recession hits, Louisiana isn't bracing for impact, it's waiting for the wave to wipe out the shoreline. Even if your state didn't make this list, don't relax. New Mexico, Alabama, and West Virginia are right behind with their own storm clouds brewing. In this economy, safe is a relative term, and gravity doesn't play favorites. If you spent the past 10 minutes nervously looking up your state's budget, give this video a like as your personal rainy day fund. Subscribe and follow @HousingIQ, your go-to source for economic clarity. No astrology required when you've got an astrophysicist breaking it down for you. Drop a comment with your own recession predictions, or just vent about house prices. Bonus points if you're a local official, an economist, or believe your state might just Newton's third law itself to safety. Stay safe, stay smart, and remember, in the universe of American economics, even the biggest giants can trip over the tiniest stone.